let's start with that big transfer story then. Anderson off to City for £116 million. It's a lot of money. Is he worth it?
Well, we'll see over the next sort of 4 to 5 years. I think there's a lot of transfers over the years, or we've all sort of bawled when you see the actual, price figure, and you'll say the player's not worth it. But if the player goes on to be a success in Manchester City and they continue how successful they've been over the last 4 to 5 years, and I said if that continues again over the length of the contract for Elliot Anderson, it will be worth it. But it does feel like a lot right now, but we've said that with numerous players over the years.
How do you see him fitting in this City side? Is it a Rodri replacement? Is he a player that could play alongside him? And in terms of Enzo Maresca coming in and fitting in under his system?
I think this was a deal Manchester City would have done if Pep Guardiola was still at the club. So I think it's not just about the manager, maybe Maresca saying, he really, likes the player. I think this was a deal Manchester City wanted to get done anyway. There was a lot of noises before I think Pep, left Manchester City. Who will he play with? I think they want to keep Rodri at the club. I think there's noises around him as well with Real Madrid. But when you think of Rodri and Bernardo Silva last season, in the second half of the season, they were fantastic as a midfield pair, especially in that Carabao Cup final against Arsenal. And I think with Bernardo Silva moving on to Real Madrid, I think it's just the obvious, spot now for Elliot Anderson to join Rodri, and that will be a really formidable midfield.
Yeah, let's talk England now, Jamie, because, of course, he was part of that England side that struggled to break down Ghana. It was such a contrast to that second half against Croatia. What do you think changed for those two matches?
The opposition. I mean, it's nothing we haven't seen before in international tournaments when England come play in the group, or that we see on a regular basis in the Premier League. So it's nothing new. I don't think it's something to get too carried away with. We've seen that numerous times. Teams can't break it, when a team of that quality down. That maybe not be the problem going forward when England get to the knockout stages, to be playing maybe better quality opposition going forward. So maybe it may be more of a game like we saw against Croatia if they play against one of the big hitters. But it is something that I think has been a problem for Thomas Tuchel ever since he's come into the England job, even in sort of some friendlies and qualifying games as well. And there was a lot of scrutiny, of course, on the squad that he picked. He picked a lot of similar players who've got pace, penetration, like big spaces. But when the opposition don't give you it, England struggle to find the answers.
What changes would you make for the Panama game, if any? Would you rest Declan Rice, for example?
It depends how bad his situation is. I don't know whether they're just monitoring something or he has got a problem. There's no point risking it because he's a huge player for England, and only the medical staff and Declan know how serious it is. So, listen, if he's fine, he plays. He plays numerous games every season. That's always been in his DNA of Declan Rice. But if it's too big of a problem, yes, it's not something to risk him in. I think when you look at the wide areas, I think that's something where England have probably looked for a little bit more than what they had in the last game. So I'd probably expect Rashford and Bukayo Saka to come back into the team. I think Saka's a first choice player. He's just not been 100% fit. I think with Anthony Gordon and Marcus Rashford, it's almost a toss of a coin who plays. But I think with Anthony Gordon having 2 starts, Rashford coming on and doing quite well, scoring a goal in the first game, probably deserves a run out.
What about defence? Because if we assume that Reece James isn't fit, who would you have at right back and then as your 2 centre-halves as well?
Well, I think he would maybe move Jed Spence from left back to right back and then bring Nico O'Reilly in, who I think was actually just rested really because of the nature of the opposition, who were very strong on the counter-attack. So Thomas Tuchel wanted a lot more pace, whether it was from Jed Spence or Mark Gay as well. So it remains to be seen whether John Stones come back in there. For me, Mark Gay would be the player I would put in there, and then one of the others would play alongside him. So, for me, I think John Stones will play because there's no point bringing him to the tournament if you're not going to play him. But I think it's a lot to ask him to play, these games against this calibre opposition, especially if we get to the knockout stage, if he hasn't played a lot of football over the last sort of 2 years.
We heard from Cole Palmer speaking for the first time since being left out, saying he's not crying. Perhaps timely from him. How much do you think Thomas Tuchel is missing a game changer like Palmer?
Yeah, I mean, that was, I did a newspaper article straight after the game, and this was always going to come up when England struggled to score a goal or break down the opposition. And what we've got to remember is this won't just be about this calibre of opposition. I mentioned before, when you play against the stronger nations, it may be a game end-to-end, like Croatia, but you also could be in a situation where the opposition go 1-0 up, 1-0 up in front. And then they drop deep, even if they're a good side. You've got to try and break them down. As I said, this has been a problem for Thomas Tuchel, I think, since he's come in at different stages. But yeah, I always felt Cole Palmer, not necessarily that he should be in the team, but I just think when you've got a squad of 26, it just feels to me like a lot of the options from the bench are very similar to the players already on the bench, which is fine. You know, the manager has a plan, he has his idea, which is pace around Harry Kane, runners from midfield. But now and again, you just want maybe something a little bit different. And I do think Cole Palmer is different from all those attacking players that is there really. The wide players obviously just rely a lot on pace. Even the players between the lines, Bellingham, Declan Rice gets in there at times as well, Morgan Rogers. The more powerful players, I would say, and runners who, you know, get into the box and crash the box and get goals and do a fantastic job, of course they do. But I just think you've got a squad of that size. I do think there should be room for a player who's a little bit different from what you've got. And I don't think we have that really. I just think there's so much like for like in the squad.
In terms of tonight, Jamie, we're going to be seeing Erling Haaland coming up against Kylian Mbappe. We've been running a poll on our website. Our viewers can't be split on the question of who they would rather have in their team. Who would you rather have in your side?
I think just Mbappe. I think he probably brings a little bit more to his game than Haaland does. I mean, the goals, you can't split them. It might just be Haaland. Maybe always get maybe a couple of more goals than him a season because he plays predominantly inside that in that box. But I think probably Mbappe gives you a little bit more in terms of an all-round game. But it's very close. And listen, I just think those players, along with so many others, of what made this sort of certainly lit up this World Cup for me. I think it's been fantastic. And a lot of that is down to the star players.
Yeah, and we are entering a stage where kind of every game has something on it. Lots of chat about the expanded format with these third-place sides going through. Do you think that's added a bit of extra drama? Or I can't actually believe I'm going to say this because I'm Scottish, but has it made it too easy to qualify for the knockout stages?
Yeah, there's something about it that doesn't feel right. Just the number feels wrong. It almost feels like it should be smaller or bigger. This just almost feels like the halfway house, really. But I mean, could you? I mean, there'd be so many teams if you went bigger, and then once you've got to the situation where we are now, where I think it's 48, it's just you're never going to go back to what it was before. So I think we've just got to make the best of what it is, and I think the decisions on whether it's worked or not will probably result in what happens in these, these final group games, and whether they're competitive, whether they added something to the World Cup.
We heard Jan Diomande speaking for the first time this tournament, someone I'm sure you're keeping an eye on because there's lots of speculation about his future and where it lies after the World Cup. The more you watch him, is he someone that you would like to see in a Liverpool shirt? And do you think that they will and can pull that transfer off?
Well, Liverpool have to buy somebody of that ilk in that position. They've lost Mo Salah, one of the greatest players we've seen in the Premier League, or in a red shirt. So it's big shoes to fill. He's a young man who's probably, if Liverpool do buy him, it will be buying potential as well as what he's got right now as well. But Liverpool need to bring a lot more pace into the attack. They've already done that with a signing, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So at the moment, he looks like the one Liverpool want. And if they want him, I would say go and get him.
Yeah, a couple of other transfer lines bubbling away. Sandro Tonali keen to join Tottenham Hotspur. Do you think that would be a good move for both parties?
I think it probably will, yeah. I think you can see straight away with De Zerbi, he wants to get things done quickly. Probably wants his players there as soon as possible when pre-season starts as well. Made a lot of signings early on. He's not messing about. He did a really good job when he came in. Kept them up, but he's not at Tottenham to be in the middle of the table. He wants to be getting Tottenham back, challenging in those Champions League positions. He's a top coach, and it looks like he's attracting some top players, and I think Tonali is that. And probably Newcastle now under Eddie Howe. He built a brilliant team. Won a trophy, got Champions League football, I think, twice. Not a great season for them last season, but it just almost feels like that team is sort of breaking up now. Anthony Gordon's gone, Tonali's looking like he may move on. I think there's been a bid from Arsenal as well today for Bruno Guimaraes, and it almost feels like Newcastle are going to have to build another team and try and replicate what they've done over these last 3 or 4 years. Yeah,
what do you make of that line that's coming out today about Bruno Guimaraes and a possible move to Arsenal?
I think he's a wonderful player. He's loved up there. Maybe he's getting a little bit frustrated seeing all his mates getting linked with moves or looking like they're going, and maybe he's put a story out, or him and his people have. I don't know, or maybe it is a genuine bid from Arsenal, and I can understand that. You know, as I said, I think he can play for the top teams. He's playing central midfield now for Brazil in the World Cup, so that shows the quality the lad has. But I think if Anthony Gordon goes and Tonali, I think if you lose any more, it's probably too much then, really. I think if, you know, Guimaraes and Tonali both leave, that's a huge hole for Newcastle to fill. So I think they'd probably lose one of them, and it would probably come down to who was getting offered the most money for.